Hello, everybody. Welcome again to our subject, Real Estate Economics. This is Gas Agosto from the Lyceum of Alabang. We are now in week 2 of our course, and the topic for this week is supply and demand and real estate. So we have this principle in economics, which most common term by the economist, that is supply and demand. What is the principles and how it works in real estate? Okay, let's go. So the outline of this discussion, at first we will discuss market. And then second, we will discuss demand. And third, we will discuss the supply. And lastly, we will tackle buyer and sellers market. Okay? So what is market then? A market is a group of buyers and sellers of a particular product. So there should be two elements. No, there is an element, two players in a market, that is the buyer and seller, and then there is a particular product that they are in a transaction. That and also remember that market is not about only physical. It can also be in an online setup, no, in the internet. So there are different definition or connotation on what market is. One of these is the geographic location. It may be in Metro Manila, regional, rural, suburbs, or city neighborhoods. Okay, so you can say that's Cavite market, the market area, and all in the Northern Luzon market or whatever. That is based on geographic. There are also demographic profiles. Example, millennials, the empty nesters, the seniors, no, and others, no, based on sex, man and woman. There are different demographic profiles, which may also by income, no, income bracket. And last one, the product types. It may be off-price stores, big box warehouses, hotels, and office spaces. So different property types. It's a segment, no, of a market. So there are different terms used in a market, of a market. No? So you can, when we talk about market, we have to specify what does it mean? Is it geographic? It means demographic, or based on product types. Now, in real estate, there are different participants, no, in a real estate market. One are the owners. Second, the renters. There are also owner users. They own the property and at the same time they use. And there are also renovators. And there are also investors, no, renovators, investors. They just renovate the property and then buy and sell, no. Developers, real estate developers, they develop properties and sell it to the market. And lastly, there are facilitators. Facilitators act in between the buyer and the seller. It's the example of it are real estate brokers, lawyers, no? Banks, and others. So we are the participants or players in the real estate market. Now, what is product? Product in real estate refers to the property type. For example, apartment, buildings, offices, warehouses. That is the product in real estate, which is further classified by locational attributes, size or layout, or maybe income bracket, no, design features, project amenities, services and prices. Sometimes we classify it as low cost, mid cost, or mid end, and then high end. No? That is also a product. Example again in hotels, which are divided into convention and conference properties, full service or limited service establishment, and resort facilities oriented to tourists. So hotels are different. No? They are classified also into different functionalities and usage. Retail projects can include regional malls, neighborhood centers, power or lifestyle centers, outlet malls, and urban street retail, no? Like the convenience store that we have, 7-Eleven, and then the others, no? Arcades and different retail projects. The housing sector can be segmented by physical characteristics into single-family detached or attached models or low-rise, mid-rise, and high-rise apartment and by tenure for sale or rental. So this is the product in real estate. No? So in economics, we are talking about the product and we deep dive into the different economics principle over a certain products to dissect the value chain of the creation and distribution, exchange and sale of product. Now, this is what we are doing in economics. Okay, next. So a market, there are different types of market. Again, there are competitive market with many buyers and sellers. No? Each has a negligible effect on price because when there is a competition, definitely they will compete either on the price, on other aspect, so that the buyer will come to them. No? There is a competition. There is also a perfectly competitive market. All goods exactly the same, buyer and seller so numerous that no one can affect market price. Each is a price taker. No? When we talk about the price taker, they cannot influence the price because the buyer will go to a seller who has a competitive price. No? So the best thing to do to the seller is to align with the market price. No, or they will face no buyer at all. No, because there are numerous competitor. Okay. And another one, that there is a monopoly. No, the only seller in the market. A monopoly is the opposite. No, a perfect competition. They set the price. No, so that is the monopoly. And the oligopoly, between perfect competition and monopoly, there are more than two. No, more than two. Players in the market. As you can see in the market structures, the left one direction, there are more competition, from perfect competition to monopolistic competition. However, in the right side, there are less competition. Oligopoly and monopoly. Monopoly means mono, only one. No? So more concentration in the right side, less concentration in the left side. That is how we look at the market. No, we have to identify if the market is in a competitive market or a perfectly competitive market, or there is a monopoly or an oligopoly. In the next section, in the supply and demand, we are looking at a competitive market, no? And we are situating ourselves in a competitive market. That's what the law of supply and demand presentation that we have, no? However, as I've said, you have in actual, in the real life, to know what is the prevalent market structure in the area or in the industry, based on geographical, based on product types, no, and based on demographics. So you have to know what is the market structure and then construct the law of supply and demand. No? However, in this discussion, we are setting ourselves in a competitive market. Okay? So the supply and demand, no? The supply and demand, it is the words commonly, no, used by the economists, no? The forces that make economists work. Because as what Adam Smith said, no, there is an invisible hand that works in the market. He refers to the market forces, no, the market forces that dictates or that govern in a market setting, no, because there is the law of supply and demand. And it refers to the behavior of people as they interact with one another in competitive markets. This is the behavior. Because if you are the buyers and you have observed and, in a certain market that there is a monopoly, you have no choice. No, you have to buy because you need the goods, the products. No, however, in a competitive market, because there are so many sellers, you can look for competitive price that suit you. No, you can bargain. No, the prices and then the package, no, the package or or if there are supplements for a product or whatever, no. So that's how supply and demand work. It differs in a competitive market. It differs in a monopoly market. No, so you have to observe. If you are doing a market study, you have to observe the market structure of a certain product in a geographical, demographical, or product setup. Okay. So demand. The quantity demanded of any good is the amount of the good that buyers are willing and able to purchase. No? So this is not only the ones, no, because quantity demanded, it is the amount of the good that are willing and able. They have the capacity, no, they are willing to buy and they are able to buy. That is the quantity demanded. It's higher than the wants, no, or you are just expressing that I want that good, no? Because you may want the good, but you are not you are not able to purchase that one. Okay, so there is an element, no? There is an element when you talk about the quantity demanded. You are willing and you are able to purchase, no? To purchase the good. So in the law of demand, the claim that the quantity demanded of a good falls when the price of the good rises. No? So definitely, when the price fall, then there is a sudden rise also of demand. No? Other things equal or ceteris paribus in economics, no? Ceteris paribus, we call it ceteris paribus. Other things are equal, no? Other things are equal. So when this happens, no? the price of goods fall, the price of good, when the price of the good rises, no? There is it's akin to a seesaw, no? If the price of the goods will rise, there is a fall in demand. However, it will the price of the goods will or the price of the goods will fall. There is a sudden demand of that good. It depends, no. However, there are goods that we call it the normal good, or then the other goods, no. We will talk it later, like the essentials, no. You have no choice, but you have to even the elasticity of the product is high, no. So there is a sudden increase, but you have no choice but to buy. So continue in the demand relationship between the price of a good and quantity demanded. So in economics, we are figuring out by crafting a table like this one, no? Showing the demand curve, no? The demand curve, this is the demand curve. And then you can see the quantity demanded. It increases, no? It rises, also the price, no? From 0, then 2 quantity until 10, no? And then however the price remain the same, but the number of the product continuously increasing, no? That is the demand curve, no? It can also be like until here, no, which is 6. Here that is 8, and you can see, no, the demand curve price on the vertical axis is 1, and then quantity on the horizontal. So an individual's demand for a product, no. So when we talk about demand, it's not only an individual, but also a summation of the demand of a population in a certain locality or a certain demography. Okay? So market demand, it is the sum of all individual demands for a goods or services. No? Example, si Juan, no? Juan. Juan, it's an individual demand. However, if you will include the goods of Maria or the services of Maria, then the sum of both, this is what we call the market demand. No? Market demand. So this is the market demand. Okay, so the same, there is a market demand curve. No? It's the sum, the individual demand curves horizontally, and then the total quantity demanded of good varies. As the price of the good varies, other things are constant. The same with this one, no? The demand curve. The market demand curve is sloping down, no? They have a downward sloping angle, no? So here you can see the movement, no? The movement of the demand curve. It shifts. If shifts in the demand curve, there is an increase or there is an decrease. Increase, any change that increases the quantity demanded at every price. This one, because from Q1 or quantity 1, you move to quantity 2. Definitely, if this is 10, this will now becomes 12 because it is higher, no? The higher, or it might be 14, no? 14. This is demand curve 1, and this is demand curve 2. Okay? So demand curve shifts right. This one. This is the movement. So there is an increase. However, if it shifts to the left, no, if this is the original position, This is D1. It shifts to the left, so it decreases. Okay. The demand curve shifts left. That is the price decrease and the quantity demanded also decreases. So that is the movement of the demand curve. No? Left or right. Right, that is increase. Left, that would be a decrease. So variables that can shift the demand curve. What are those? No? Number one, income. The income, salary, and others, and also availability of credit. Prices of related goods, if example, real estate or property, related goods like construction materials, no? Construction materials and others, no? That is related goods, it can shift, no? The demand curve. Next, the population, no? The growth of a population, the migration, and whatsoever. So it can form part of the population. Employment definitely also related with the income. The more employed people, it can shift. No, if there is an increase in employment, example 10%, 20% in a certain population, they can now afford to buy a property. And taste, no, this is taste. Like for lifestyle, no, the lifestyle. Before, example, before, most of the population are open to house and lot. However, because of the change of taste or lifestyle, now condominium living is become a norms. There is a change in lifestyle. Before you want to have a single detached or a house and lot because you wanted to have a garden, have a few stories to go upward. No, however, today in a fast-paced world, and more people are going to or adapting to the condominium living. So that there is a change in lifestyle, and in the condominium living now there is also a shift to the green, no, to green from the previous, which is a standalone. Now there are township condominium and whatsoever. There is a change of lifestyle, no. So with that is also can shift the demand curve. No? Next, the expectation. Expectation, there is a geographical growth, no? Increase in the geographical, and then the market widens and others, and then the infrastructure, no? Particularly mass transport. There is bright futures ahead, expectation of the people, so they will try to invest in the properties where the development is going. No, if it is going north, they want to invest in properties because of accessibility. Now is become relatively good, no, because of the mass transportation, and then skyways, and then the expressways, no. Then also number of buyers. If there are increase of buyers, before example, we are constricted on Filipino buyers. Example, now there are buyers from abroad, from the US, Europe, and now we open to the Chinese buyers. No, the number of buyers increases. So these factors enables the shifting of the demand curve. No, it will shift the demand curve either from right or to the left. However, there are income, no, and income. There are what we call the normal good, no. Other things constant or ceteris paribus. Again, an increase in income leads to an increase in demand. No? So, if the salary of the people increases, example, from 50,000, it increases, no? It increases to 70,000. So more and more people now can afford to buy or to down or to purchase properties or condos or whatever. No? So that is a normal good. However, there are also inferior good. An increase in income leads to a decrease in demand. No? Because of the sudden increase, no, increase or income, before you just capable to buy low cost or a socialized housing example, no. Now, because of your increase in income, you are not just looking at the socialized housing, no. It's because of the increase in income, and you are capable now. Example, mid cost property or condominium, no, mid cost condominium, socialized housing is an inferior good now to you. It's now an inferior good because your capacity is higher, no? Is higher now in comparison with the with your previous. No? Now you can you think that your capacity now and your lifestyle will be suited in a medium rise or a mid cost condominium. No? So for you, socialized housing now is a inferior good. Demand, prices of related goods, substitutes, no? Substitutes. Example, this condominium, no? This is a substitute of house and lot. No? So an increase in the price of one leads to an increase in the demand for the other. Example, kung sa house and lot, in the house and lot, no? House and lot, there is a sudden increase in house and lot because of the scarcity of land. Then there are condominiums offered in the market, and there are substitutes. No, you can also look for substitute condominium units, and there are also complements. No, complements. This is complementary to the example condominium. The complementary of this one are the different services, no, that will provide in the occupants. No? It might be a garage, no, that is a complement in a condo garage, or services, the laundry, the coffee shops downstairs. Those were the complements. If there are no garage and there are certain points of decrease in price, no, because if it's included, embedded in the condominium unit, or you have to buy, or you have to lease with the garage, no, that is another contention, no. Garage is a complement to a condominium unit. Okay. Taste, change in taste, changes the demand. As I've discussed, if you are in a condominium with a standalone concept, now there are more condominium that has green complements like this in the picture. There is an open space where you can relax, enjoy with the family. That is another changes in the lifestyle. And there is changes in the lifestyle. There is also change in the mind. Expectation about the future, expect an increase in income. So there should be an increase in current demand, or if there are expectation of higher prices, you can notice that in developers, they will post that there are expected increase in price. So hurry, buy now. No, there are expectation of increases. So it can add pressure to you, or it can add a brighter one. No? If there is an increase in income, so you can expect a deluge also of demand. Number of buyers increases as market demand increases. As what I've said, if before your market is only you are marketing only in the Philippines, now you can it increases into the others, Europe, US, and now in Chinese buyers. Now let's go to supply. Supplies, quantity is supplied, amount of goods. Sellers are willing and able to sell. No? There are sellers who are willing and able to sell. No? So this there is also a law of supply. Other things equal. When the prices of good rises, the quantity supplied of the good also rises. No? So it's different with the demand, no? Which is in contradictory with each other. However, this one, they go at the same time. No, when the good rises, the quantity supplied also rises. When the price falls, the quantity supplied falls as well. No, they are in cadence among themselves. So you can see here the shifts in supply. The shifts of supply, it increases. No, any change that increase the quantity supplied at every price. No, so supply curve shifts right. Okay, this is the supply curve, the blue one. This is the supply at zero, supply curve one. So if there is an increase, it will shift to right, no? To right, no? Okay, this one. And then you can see the quantity demanded also increases from Q to Q1, no? Quantity. And then, however, the price from the P to P1, it decreases because of the supply. So decrease in supply, and it change that decreases the quantity of supply at every price. Supply curve shifts left. No? Here, the movement will shift to the left. Okay, that is the decrease movement of the supply curve. Okay, variables that can shift the supply curve: input prices, availability of land, inflation, and prices of building materials, construction materials increases. That is also that can also shift, that shift the supply curve. Availability of capital for developers, the same with the the buyers, if there is an availability of capital. Then technology, availability of technology. If you want to build high rise, what technology existing today, or you have to buy machines and others. And then expectations about futures, government policies, and number of sellers. So input prices, supply is negatively related to price of inputs. So higher input prices, it decreases the supply. No? When the construction materials increases, definitely it affects the supply. Technology, advance in technology reduces firms' cost, increase in supply. Now, when the apply example, the technology on on the wall. No, now we are using the fabricated prefabricated walling. It's a new technology, the 3D technology. No, it's a technology. However, the cost, no, the cost of installing that one is another one. No? It reduces the firm's cost definitely because you do not need to hire a mason, no, mason or whatever that will install the walling and whatever. However, the installation it needs equipments and others. Expectation about future after current supply and expected higher prices, no decrease in current supply. If there are example, there are wars, no, it can affect no the supply. It will halt, wait and see. No? The developers will react by not doing something, you know, to continue the construction whatsoever. Number of sellers increases. No, definitely if there are uh, new competitors in the market, then it will reduce. It will increase the supply. No, however, their profitability will be affected. Okay, so when putting together supply and demand, there will be an equilibrium. Okay, equilibrium. There is the point where barriers of forces, the supply and demand, are in balance. No, it is a situation in which market price has reached the level where quantity supplied equals quantity demanded. This one, no. It crosses over in a certain point. That is the equilibrium, the market equilibrium. They intersect, and at the horizontal, that is quantity demanded, and then the vertical, there is the price, no, the price. So this is the price equilibrium. This is the equilibrium quantity, and this is the market equilibrium. So you can see here that whatever the movement of the supply and demand curve, it will affect the quantity demanded and the price of the product. Okay, so it's important to master the law of supply and demand whenever, because in real estate economics, this is basic. Okay, so equilibrium price is what said, balances quantity supplied, quantity demanded. That is what others call the market clearing price. Nah? Equilibrium quantity, quantity supplied, quantity demanded at the equilibrium price. Now, there is a point that we have quantity supplied greater than the quantity demanded. No? So we have an excess supply, no? excess supply. So it puts downward pressure on price. You can see this is the supply. No, it's higher than the quantity demanded. No? The quantity demanded is here. However, the quantity supplied is here. So it put pressure. No? Put pressure on the price. Movements along the demand and supply curves. Okay, this one, no, movement from here, from the equilibrium supply, then movement upward. That is one. Then the here movement is there is an increase in quantity demanded. So there is a decrease in quantity supply. So we can now have a surplus, what we call the surplus, no. This is the situation in real estate. We call it buyer's market, no, buyer's market. So here, this is the situation when there are more supply than the quantity demanded. So there is also a situation when shortage, which we call seller's market, where the quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supply. Okay, so you can see in the graph, no? This is the supply curve, this is the demand curve. And here you can see if this is the quantity 1 movement of quantity 2. From here, there is a shortage, no? The shortage of demand. Upward pressure or excess demand. There is a upward pressure on price. Now, to reach the equilibrium, you have to move upward along the supply curve to reach, to balance, no? To balance the supply and demand. No, there is a portion here which needs more supply to reach the equilibrium. However, to that would enable, no, the seller to increase the price, because there are more demand. There are more demand than the supply. No? The supply is here. However, the demand is here in quantity 2. No? There is this portion which needs to fill, no, the gap for shortage, no, the shortage. So the point here is to move along the curve to reach the equilibrium, so that the balance will be achieved, no. The price definitely will increase the price, and then the quantity demanded, however, will be put on the right direction. So buyers and sellers market, this exists when people who want to buy homes have more negotiating power than people selling homes, no, or properties. In a buyer's market, there are more homes for sale than potential buyers. In a seller markets, it exists when there are fewer property for sale than buyers. The people who want to sell the property have more negotiating power than prospective buyers, because the property market is limited to geography, because of the location. A supply of units in particular geography will be limited. No? As what we said, location is fixed because our land resources is fixed. Okay, in a normal situation or normal in a competitive market, the norm is to let the market forces works either in a surplus or a shortage situation, because eventually it will go back to its equilibrium. No, if this is what is happening, no, definitely the supply and demand, the law of supply and demand says, no, that it will go back to its equilibrium, no, because of the law of supply and demand. The equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price will be installed again for a certain period. So most economists are not in favor in putting some control measures, price control, supply control, no? To destabilize the market. To destabilize the market. Definitely, we are talking here a situation where there is a competitive market. When there is a competitive market, it will return back to its equilibrium. However, it will differ if there is a monopoly. Okay, it is a different scenario. In a monopoly situation, you can tap, no, the government control or the government power to preserve, no, to preserve or to stabilize the price. Okay, supply and demand together, the ship versus movements along curves, no? This one, this is the ship, this is the movement along the curve. When there is another one, demand curve, that is the ship, no? Ship, this is what we call shifting. This one is the movement along, no? The curves. Shift the supply curve, change in supply. Movement along fixed supply curve, change in the quantity supplied. Okay, if this is the supply curve, no? If there is a movement along, there is a shift, there is an increase. Okay, shift in the demand curve is one, there is a change in demand, and movement along a fixed demand curve, there is a change in the quantity demanded is one. From this quantity 3, and then here if you are move along quantity 2, there is an increase, no? If there is 2, this is 4, there is 6, no? So from 2, there's an increase to 6. Okay, that is the movement along the demand curve. The movement along the supply curve is the same, no? If this is the quantity, this is the supply 1, this is supply 2, no? This is supply 3, there is also an increase. So a change in market equilibrium due to a shift in supply. This is example, no? And in a setup. Okay. Shifts in both supply and demand. Example, the pandemic shifts the demand curve, or that shifts the supply curve. No, there is a certain situation in Cebu before. After we have the pandemic, there is also an that situation. So the demand curve shifts to the right, supply curve shifts to the left. No? That is only an example. It will happen. No? There is a movement that will move the supply and demand curve either left at the same time or right at the same time. However, the equilibrium price raises. No? If demand increases substantially while supply falls just a little, equilibrium quantity rises. If supply falls substantially while demand rises just a little, equilibrium quantity falls. Okay, so that's it for today, and hopefully next meeting we can have a live synchronous meeting. Thank you and good morning, everyone. Thank you and good morning. See you again.